Hello there, and welcome to this Sleepy Science channel. Tonight we'll be drifting through one of the most comforting truths about being alive. Your body knows how to heal itself. Right now, even as you rest here, trillions of cells are quietly at work. Repairing damage you'll never notice. Replacing what has worn away. Rebuilding strength in places you cannot see. Healing is not something that happens only after injury. It is the constant patient rhythm that defines every moment of your existence. Every breath brings renewal. Every heartbeat carries repair to distant corners of your body. A gentle truth emerges here. Beneath the surface of your awareness, an ancient intelligence is always tending to you, mending what needs mending, restoring what needs restoring, never rushing, never stopping. Tonight we'll explore the gentle science of how your body heals, from the smallest molecules to the largest systems, from skin that knows how to close itself, to bones that rebuild their own strength, from nerves that find their way back home, to hearts that beat with quiet resilience. Wherever you are, allow yourself to settle now. Dim the lights if you can. Let your body sink into comfort. Feel the support beneath you, solid and steady. Take a slow breath, and as you exhale, release the weight of the day. You don't need to remember anything tonight. You don't need to learn or hold on to facts. Simply let these truths wash over you like gentle waves, reminding you that healing is not something you must work for. It is something your body already knows how to do. Let's begin. Within you, renewal never stops. Cells live briefly, serve their purpose, and quietly surrender to be replaced by others that continue the work of being you. The lining of your stomach refreshes itself every few days. Bone cells exchange themselves over years. Even the surface of your skin is replaced in a slow, constant cascade. Almost everything that makes up your physical form today will eventually be gone, replaced by new material, yet the pattern of you remains. It is as if your body remembers the idea of itself and keeps rebuilding toward that memory again and again, without ever needing to be told. This constant rebuilding happens at different speeds throughout your body. Red blood cells circulate for about 4 months before being replaced. The cells lining your intestines renew every few days, working in one of the body's harshest environments. Liver cells can last for years, while certain neurons in your brain may remain with you for your entire lifetime, adapting and changing but never being replaced. Yet even in tissues that seem permanent, molecules are constantly exchanged, proteins are broken down and rebuilt, cell membranes are refreshed. The atoms that make up your body today are not the same atoms that formed you years ago. You are like a river that keeps the same name and shape, even though the water flowing through it is always new. The pattern persists, the form continues, but the substance is in constant gentle motion. This process requires enormous coordination. Each cell must know when to divide, when to rest, and when to let go. Chemical signals move between cells like quiet conversations. When a cell reaches the end of its natural lifespan, it activates a program of graceful departure. It shrinks, and its contents are carefully packaged. Nearby immune cells recognize the signals and arrive to clear away the remains. Meanwhile, stem cells in nearby tissue receive signals that a replacement is needed. They divide, and one daughter cell begins the journey of becoming whatever type is needed: skin cell, blood cell, muscle cell. The instructions are already written within, and so the cycle continues, quiet and automatic. Rest arrives with this knowing. Your body is never trying to achieve perfection or permanence. It simply maintains itself through ongoing transformation, accepting that change is the only way to stay whole. Let your shoulders soften now. The speed of renewal varies with age. In youth, turnover is rapid, supporting growth and quick recovery. As years pass, the pace slows, but it never stops entirely. Even in the oldest tissues, quiet maintenance continues. Some cells, like those in your heart muscle and brain, divide rarely or not at all after you reach adulthood. But they still renew their internal components constantly, replacing worn proteins and damaged structures to maintain function. You can support this natural renewal through simple acts. Rest gives cells time to focus on repair rather than activity. Nourishment provides the building blocks needed for new growth. Movement signals the body that strength and circulation matter. But mostly, renewal happens without your conscious participation. Right now, as you rest here, millions of cells are completing their cycles, others are being born. The great exchange continues in darkness and silence, guided by wisdom older than thought. There is no need to direct this process or worry about its success. Your body has been doing this since before you drew your first breath. It will continue long after you fall asleep tonight, working through the quiet hours with patience that measures time in heartbeats rather than minutes. Let that thought settle gently. You are always new, always renewing. A living pattern that stays recognizable even as everything within it flows and changes like water through cupped hands. When your skin is broken, the repair begins not from the air above, but from the tissue below. Blood rushes to the wound, forming a protective seal. Deep beneath the surface, cells called fibroblasts arrive like builders, laying down scaffolding made of collagen. Then, slowly, skin cells crawl across this hidden framework from underneath, closing the gap in gentle waves until the edges meet again. This quiet choreography happens without your awareness, guided by invisible chemical signals and the body's perfect memory of wholeness. Even as you sleep, the same process continues on a microscopic scale, mending tiny tears you never knew existed. The moment skin breaks, a cascade of events begins. Blood vessels near the injury constrict briefly to slow bleeding, then dilate to allow immune cells and nutrients to flood the area. Platelets arrive within seconds, clustering together to form the beginnings of a clot. This clot is more than a simple plug. It becomes a temporary matrix, a biological scaffolding that holds the wound's edges in place and provides a surface for the next phase of healing to begin. Beneath this protective cover, fibroblasts migrate into the wound space. These cells are the body's master builders, producing collagen fibers that weave together like threads in fabric. At first, the collagen is laid down quickly in a somewhat disorganized pattern, prioritizing speed over perfection. The goal in these early stages is closure. Strength and refinement can come later. What matters most is sealing the breach and preventing infection. As fibroblasts lay their collagen foundation, another remarkable process begins. Skin cells at the wound's edges start to change their behavior. Normally, they stay in place, maintaining their position in the orderly layers of the epidermis. But when injury occurs, they receive signals to become mobile. These cells flatten themselves. They extend small projections outward, and then they begin to crawl across the wound bed, moving over the collagen scaffolding that fibroblasts have prepared. This migration happens as a coordinated sheet of cells, each one maintaining contact with its neighbours. They move together like a slow wave, guided by chemical gradients that tell them where the wound is and where they need to go. The journey is measured in micrometers per hour. From above, nothing seems to be happening. But beneath the surface, thousands of cells are engaged in patient, purposeful movement toward reunion. Behind this advancing edge of skin cells, new layers begin to form. The wound is not simply being covered, but rebuilt in 3 dimensions, restoring the complex architecture that gives skin its strength and function. Blood vessels follow close behind, sprouting new branches into the healing tissue. These tiny capillaries bring oxygen and nutrients to support the intense cellular activity. Without them, repair would stall. Nerve endings also begin their slow return, reaching into the new tissue to restore sensation. This process can take longer than the visible closure of the wound, which is why healing skin sometimes feels numb or tingly for weeks after an injury appears healed. Feel the support beneath you, steady and reliable. As days and weeks pass, the initial collagen scaffolding is remodeled. Fibroblasts return to reorganize the fibers, aligning them along the natural lines of tension in the skin. What started as a quick patch becomes increasingly refined. The wound gradually gains strength. What could easily tear apart in the first days becomes resilient enough to withstand normal stress. Though a scar may remain visible, the underlying tissue has restored most of its original durability. This entire process happens largely without conscious awareness. You might notice the surface changes as a scab forms and falls away, as redness fades to pink and then to the pale mark of a mature scar. But the intricate cellular choreography beneath occurs in silence. Even tiny wounds that you never consciously notice undergo this same process. Small tears from friction, minor damage from sun exposure, the constant wear of daily life, all are continuously being mended by the same mechanisms, keeping your largest organ intact and functional. A certain calm comes from knowing that healing is not something you must remember to do. It is automatic, built into the very structure of your tissues. Your skin knows how to find itself and become whole again. Your skeleton is not still or silent. Each bone constantly listens to the pressures moving through it. When you walk, lift, or simply stand, tiny sensors within the bone detect where stress is greatest. They send messages to cells that dissolve old mineral and others that build new, stronger material in its place. Through this continuous conversation, your bones reshape themselves to fit the life you live. thickening where you bear weight, lightening where rest allows. Even after a fracture, the same system awakens, weaving mineral and protein until strength returns, often leaving the bones stronger than before. Bones may seem like inert structures, more mineral than living tissue, but within each one lies a dynamic system of cells that constantly monitor and adjust the skeleton's architecture. The sensors within bone are called osteocytes. These cells sit in tiny spaces throughout the bone matrix, connected to each other through delicate channels. When mechanical stress moves through bone, it creates tiny electrical signals and fluid flow that osteocytes can detect. Think of them as the bone's nervous system. They feel pressure, tension, and strain, and they respond by sending chemical messages to other cells nearby. When osteocytes detect high stress in a particular area, they signal for reinforcement. Cells called osteoblasts respond by producing new bone material. The bone becomes denser and more robust where it is needed most. In areas where stress is low, different signals go out. Cells called osteoclasts arrive to dissolve bone tissue that is no longer necessary. This might seem destructive, but it is essential for maintaining balance. Bones need to be strong where stressed, but light enough to allow efficient movement. This process of simultaneous breakdown and building is called bone remodeling. It happens continuously throughout your entire skeleton, allowing your bones to adapt to the specific demands of your life. Athletes develop denser bones in the limbs and spine that bear the most load. Astronauts in microgravity lose bone density because the lack of stress signals the body that such strength is no longer needed. When they return to Earth, the bones gradually rebuild. Even in daily life, your bones are constantly fine-tuning themselves. The patterns of pressure from walking, standing, and moving during the day inform how your skeleton will reshape itself overnight. This adaptation also explains why bones can heal after fractures. When a break occurs, the area becomes a site of intense remodeling activity. Blood and immune cells flood the fracture site, clearing debris. A soft callus of cartilage forms first, bridging the gap like a temporary patch. Then osteoblasts move in, gradually replacing the cartilage with hard bone. Over months, this new bone is remodeled to match the strength and structure of the original. The repair site is often reinforced more heavily than surrounding bone, making it paradoxically stronger than before the injury. The bone remembers the stress pattern that caused the fracture. It responds by building extra strength in that area to prevent future breaks. The body learns from injury and adapts accordingly. Let your jaw release any tension. This continuous conversation between stress and structure happens without your awareness. You do not need to tell your bones where to strengthen or lighten. They sense it themselves and respond with quiet intelligence. The process slows with age, which is why older bones are more fragile, but it never stops entirely. Even in advanced years, bones still respond to the signals of movement and load, adapting as much as they are able. Gentle, regular movement helps maintain this dialogue between stress and strength. Weight-bearing activities remind bones that they are needed and must stay strong. Rest periods allow the remodeling process to complete without interference. Your skeleton is not a rigid cage. but a living architecture that reshapes itself daily. It remembers the forces you place upon it and adjusts itself to meet those demands with remarkable precision. Hidden beneath your ribs lies an organ with a remarkable gift. The liver shows one of the strongest regenerative abilities in the human body. When a portion is damaged or removed, the remaining tissue begins to divide rapidly, guided by molecular signals that remember the liver's original size and shape. Within weeks or months, it can rebuild itself to full function, restoring the quiet work of filtering blood, balancing chemistry, and storing energy. This capacity, perhaps inherited from creatures that could regrow entire limbs, continues to work within you, proof that the body holds reserves of renewal far deeper than we often realize. The liver's regenerative capacity sets it apart from nearly every other organ in the human body. While skin and blood constantly renew themselves and bones slowly remodel, the liver can actually regrow lost mass in a way that resembles true regeneration. If a portion of the liver is surgically removed or damaged by injury or illness, the remaining healthy cells receive signals that the organ is incomplete. These signals trigger a coordinated response that begins within hours. Liver cells, which normally divide very slowly if at all, suddenly enter a phase of rapid multiplication. They are not creating new liver tissue from stem cells, but rather duplicating the existing mature cells to restore the missing volume. As these cells divide, they do not simply create a formless mass. Somehow they organize themselves back into the liver's complex three-dimensional structure, complete with the intricate network of blood vessels, bile ducts, and functional tissue that allows the organ to perform its hundreds of chemical tasks. Blood vessels grow alongside the new cells, following signals that tell them where to branch and connect. The liver's circulation is re-established, ensuring that blood flow reaches every part of the regenerating tissue. Within a few weeks, the liver can restore much of its original mass. Within several months, it often returns to its pre-injury size and shape, functioning as though nothing had happened. This process does not happen indefinitely. Repeated damage or chronic disease can exhaust the liver's regenerative capacity. But under the right conditions, this quiet restoration is one of the most remarkable healing capabilities in human biology. Scientists believe this ability may be an evolutionary remnant. Many simpler animals can regenerate entire body parts. Salamanders regrow limbs, starfish reform from fragments. The liver's regeneration might be a preserved echo of that ancient biological potential. What makes this especially remarkable is that the liver performs more than 500 different functions. It filters toxins from blood. It produces proteins essential for blood clotting. It stores vitamins and releases glucose to maintain steady energy levels. It creates bile to aid digestion. It breaks down hormones and medications into forms the body can use or eliminate. Despite this complexity, the regenerating liver restores not just its size but its full range of functions. The new tissue remembers how to perform all these tasks without needing to be taught. Even as it regenerates, the liver continues its work. A damaged liver does not shut down completely during repair. It maintains as many of its functions as possible while simultaneously rebuilding. a feat of biological multitasking that few other organs could achieve. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your breathing. The process is influenced by nutrition, rest, and the absence of ongoing damage. When supported properly, the liver demonstrates resilience that can seem almost miraculous. This capacity offers hope in cases of liver disease and injury. Transplant surgeons can use living donors who provide a portion of their liver, knowing both the donor's and recipient's organs will regenerate to full size. The liver reminds us that the body holds capabilities we are still learning to understand. Within its soft, unassuming structure lies one of nature's clearest demonstrations that renewal is built into our deepest biology. When a nerve is injured, it does not simply give up. Cells at the damaged end release chemical signals that guide the regrowth of nerve fibers, slowly reaching back toward the muscle or skin they once connected to. Surrounding cells act like lanterns along an old path, lighting the way forward, millimeter by millimeter. The journey can take months, but the nerve persists, following invisible trails back toward reunion. Sometimes neighboring nerves will take on new roles if the original pathway cannot be restored. This patient search reveals how deeply the body remembers its own connections. Nerve regeneration is one of the body's slowest healing processes, yet also one of its most remarkable. Unlike most cells, neurons have long, delicate projections called axons that can stretch from your spine all the way to your fingertips or toes. When an axon is cut or crushed, the portion beyond the injury dies back. The nerve cell body, usually located in the spine or a nearby ganglion, survives. And if conditions are right, it begins the work of rebuilding the lost connection. The process starts with the damaged end of the axon. As the nerve degenerates, cells called Schwann cells, which normally insulate nerves, transform their role. They begin producing growth factors and creating a pathway through the damaged tissue. These Schwann cells line up like stepping stones along the old nerve route, forming a tunnel through which the regenerating axon can grow. They release chemical signals that act as both attractants and guides. Meanwhile, the nerve cell body shifts its activity toward growth. It produces new proteins and structural components needed to extend the axon forward. A growth cone forms at the tip of the regenerating nerve, a specialized structure that can sense chemical signals in its environment. This growth cone moves forward slowly, testing the terrain. Following the strongest chemical gradients, it advances at a rate of roughly 1 to 3 millimeters per day under ideal conditions. Not every regenerating nerve finds its way back perfectly. Some take wrong turns. Others reach their destination but connect to slightly different targets than before. This is why recovered sensation or movement sometimes feels different than it did before injury. But the body has backup systems. If one nerve cannot fully restore its original connection, neighboring nerves can sprout additional branches to supply the area. This process, called collateral sprouting, helps fill in gaps and restore some function even when perfect regeneration is not possible. The brain and spinal cord also adapt during this time. As sensation or movement slowly returns, neural circuits reorganize to accommodate the new patterns of input. areas of the brain that lost their input from the injured nerve may begin responding to signals from nearby body parts, then gradually shift back as the original connection is restored. This entire process requires patience. Nerve regrowth cannot be rushed. But as long as the nerve cell body survives and a pathway exists, regeneration continues with quiet determination. The success of nerve healing depends on many factors. Clean injuries heal better than crushed ones. Younger nerves regenerate more successfully than older ones. Proper nutrition, particularly B vitamins, supports the process, and keeping the muscles and joints active prevents atrophy while waiting for nerve supply to return. Let your breath be easy and unhurried. Even when regeneration is incomplete, the body often finds ways to adapt. Physical therapy can retrain movement patterns. Sensory re-education can help the brain reinterpret altered signals. The nervous system demonstrates remarkable flexibility in working around limitations. Something settles when you realize this. A thin fiber, barely visible to the naked eye, searching its way back across centimeters or even meters of tissue to reunite with its original target. Following chemical whispers through darkness, persisting month after month toward a reunion it somehow knows is possible. This patient search reveals the body's deep commitment to maintaining its connections, to restoring communication between mind and world. Even when the journey is long and uncertain, the nerve keeps reaching forward, guided by signals written into its biology long before consciousness emerged. You don't need to hold on to these details. Let them drift past like shadows in evening light. The body's work continues whether you remember or not. Every drop of blood flowing through you is more than oxygen and nutrients. It is a communication network. When tissue is damaged, distress signals enter the bloodstream, summoning white blood cells, growth factors, and proteins that orchestrate repair. These messengers travel to distant organs, preparing them to support the healing process. The bloodstream becomes a living conversation, carrying news of what has happened and instructions for what must come next. Faster than thought, quieter than breath. The moment a cell is injured, fragments of its membrane and specialized proteins are released into nearby blood vessels. These fragments act as molecular distress beacons, recognizable to circulating immune cells. Platelets detect these signals first, arriving within seconds to form an initial seal. But they do more than simply plug the breach. As they cluster, they release their own chemical messages, amplifying the call for help. White blood cells patrolling through capillaries sense these signals and slow their movement. They begin rolling along vessel walls, searching for the precise location of injury. When they find it, they squeeze between endothelial cells and enter the damaged tissue. Different types of white blood cells respond to different signals. Neutrophils arrive first, clearing debris and preventing infection. Monocytes follow, transforming into macrophages that coordinate the next phases of repair. Lymphocytes come later, fine-tuning the immune response and creating memory of the event. Meanwhile, growth factors released at the injury site enter the bloodstream and travel throughout the body. These proteins act like biological instructions, preparing distant organs to support healing. The bone marrow receives signals to increase production of blood cells. The liver ramps up synthesis of proteins needed for clotting and tissue repair. The adrenal glands adjust hormone output to support the body's shifting needs. Even organs not directly involved in healing respond. The kidneys may adjust fluid balance. The spleen releases stored blood cells. The entire body coordinates around the single goal of restoration. This coordination happens without conscious direction. Your bloodstream continuously samples every corner of your body, detecting problems and distributing solutions with remarkable efficiency. The same system works for smaller, constant repairs that happen without injury. As cells age and prepare to be replaced, they release signals that travel through blood to stem cell reserves. New cells are mobilized and guided to where they are needed most. Nutrients absorbed from food enter this same communication network. Vitamins, minerals, and amino acids are distributed according to need, with injured or stressed tissues receiving priority. Hormones travel through blood as well, carrying messages about the body's overall state. Growth hormone peaks during sleep, telling tissues it is time to focus on repair. Cortisol rises in morning, signaling a shift back to activity. The blood itself is constantly renewed. Red blood cells live about 4 months before being recycled. White blood cells have varying lifespans depending on their type. Platelets last about 10 days. Even the liquid plasma is continuously refreshed. This flowing network connects every part of you into a single, responsive whole. What happens in one location is communicated to all locations. The isolation of injury is only apparent. Beneath the surface, the entire body mobilizes in support. Peace comes from understanding that healing is never a local, lonely process. Every injury is known throughout your body. Every repair is supported by distant organs working in quiet coordination. You're always helping yourself heal, whether you know it or not, and still, the quiet repair continues. When you drift into deep rest, the conscious world fades, but your biological world awakens. Growth hormone surges, telling cells to divide and repair. Muscles mend torn fibers. The immune system reviews encounters from the day, storing memories of threats. Even your brain performs housekeeping, washing away chemical debris through gentle waves of fluid. This nightly restoration is one of nature's oldest rituals, turning darkness into medicine, silence into renewal. Sleep is perhaps the body's most important healing opportunity. During waking hours, energy is divided between activity and maintenance. During sleep, the balance shifts dramatically toward repair. Within the first hour of deep sleep, the pituitary gland releases a pulse of growth hormone. This surge is much larger than any release during the day. The hormone travels through blood to tissues throughout the body, carrying a simple message. Now is the time to rebuild. Muscle cells respond by increasing protein synthesis, repairing the microscopic damage that accumulates from daily use. Tendons and ligaments strengthen their collagen fibers. Bone cells adjust their mineral content. The body takes inventory of the day's wear and addresses it systematically. The immune system enters what might be called review mode. T cells and B cells process the day's encounters with bacteria, viruses, and other foreign substances. Important recognitions are transferred to long-term memory. Responses are refined. The immune system learns from each day's experience during the night's rest. Inflammation that served to protect and repair during the day is deliberately reduced during sleep. Anti-inflammatory signals increase, allowing tissues to complete their healing without excessive swelling or soreness. The brain undergoes perhaps the most remarkable transformation during sleep. Throughout the day, neurons communicate intensely, producing metabolic waste products that accumulate in the spaces between cells. During deep sleep, these spaces expand slightly, and cerebrospinal fluid flows through in gentle waves. This process, discovered only recently, acts like a rinse cycle for the brain. Waste products, including proteins that can become toxic if they accumulate, are cleared away, leaving neural tissue refreshed for the next day. Memory consolidation also occurs during sleep. Experiences from the day are replayed in compressed form, strengthening important connections while allowing others to fade. What seemed like random activity is actually careful editing, keeping what matters and releasing what does not. Dreams may be part of this processing. As the brain sorts through memories and emotions, fragments surface into awareness as surreal narratives. The strange logic of dreams might reflect the associative way the brain organizes information, finding unexpected connections that waking thought might miss. Different stages of sleep support different types of healing. Deep, slow-wave sleep is best for physical repair and immune function. REM sleep, with its rapid eye movements and vivid dreams, supports emotional processing and memory integration. The body cycles through these stages multiple times each night, each cycle lasting roughly 90 minutes. This rhythm ensures all types of restoration receive attention. Disrupting the cycles, even while getting adequate total sleep time, can impair healing. Allow your body to sink a little deeper. Sleep deprivation has measurable effects on recovery. Wounds close more slowly. Immune response to infection weakens. Muscle repair after exercise is incomplete. Even a single night of poor sleep can reduce the body's healing capacity for days afterward. Conversely, good sleep accelerates healing in ways that can seem remarkable. Athletes recover faster. Surgical wounds close more quickly. Even common colds resolve sooner in people who sleep well. The body seems to know that darkness and stillness are its best opportunities for renewal. It has evolved to use night as a dedicated time for maintenance, separate from the demands of waking activity. You don't need to control or direct this process. Simply allowing yourself to rest deeply gives your body permission to enter its repair mode. The healing happens on its own, guided by rhythms refined over millions of years. There's nothing you need to remember from these thoughts. Let them drift past you gently, like clouds moving across a quiet sky. What matters is simply that you rest and trust that your body knows what to do while you sleep. Every moment, your genetic code faces damage from sunlight, toxins, and even breathing itself. Yet strands of DNA rarely stay broken. Molecular caretakers patrol constantly, scanning for errors and stitching the code back together with remarkable precision. Some repair single mistakes, others rebuild entire sections. This happens millions of times each day without your knowing. When repair succeeds, life continues unharmed. When it fails, Other systems step in to recycle or replace the cell. Deep within every nucleus lies this quiet toolkit, ensuring your story keeps being written correctly. DNA is often described as a blueprint or instruction manual, but it is more accurate to think of it as a living text that is constantly being read, copied, and maintained. And like any text, it has become damaged through various means. Ultraviolet light from the sun can cause bonds to form between adjacent bases, creating kinks in the double helix. Free radicals produced naturally during metabolism can chemically modify bases or break the sugar phosphate backbone. Even the simple act of copying DNA during cell division introduces occasional errors. If left unrepaired, these changes could alter the instruction cells used to function. But the body is not passive about genetic integrity. Multiple repair systems work continuously to detect and fix damage before it causes problems. One system scans constantly for mismatched base pairs. During DNA replication, bases are supposed to pair in specific ways. When a wrong pairing occurs, specialized enzymes recognize the error, remove the incorrect base, and insert the correct one. Another system recognizes distortions in the DNA helix. When damage causes the normally smooth spiral to bulge or kink, repair proteins bind to the site and restore the correct sequence. For breaks in the DNA backbone, different repair mechanisms come into play. Some can rejoin broken ends directly. Others use the intact strand as a template to guide accurate repair. These systems work with impressive speed and accuracy. Most damage is corrected within minutes of occurring. Only rarely does an error escape all layers of checking. The repair machinery itself is made of proteins, encoded by genes that must also be maintained. The system is self-referential, using DNA instructions to build the tools that protect those same instructions. When DNA damage is too extensive to repair, backup systems activate. The cell can pause its division cycle, giving repair mechanisms more time to work. If damage remains severe, the cell may trigger its own controlled demise, preventing potentially harmful mutations from being passed on. This process of programmed cell death, called apoptosis, is not failure but a form of quality control. It is better to lose one cell than to allow damaged genetic information to propagate. Stem cells and other important cell types have especially robust DNA repair capabilities. These cells must maintain their genetic integrity over many years, potentially giving rise to many daughter cells. Extra layers of protection ensure their DNA stays accurate, just resting here, just listening. The efficiency of DNA repair does decline somewhat with age, which is one reason older cells accumulate more mutations. But even in advanced age, the systems continue working, preventing far more damage than they allow to persist. Supporting DNA repair does not require anything elaborate. Antioxidants from colourful fruits and vegetables help neutralize free radicals before they can cause damage. B vitamins support the synthesis of new DNA bases needed for repair. Simply avoiding excessive sun exposure and toxins reduces the burden on repair systems. But mostly, DNA repair happens automatically, directed by programs written into the genome itself. The same code that can be damaged contains instructions for its own maintenance, a recursive loop of self-preservation that has allowed life to persist and evolve over billions of years. Right now, in every cell of your body, this quiet maintenance continues. Genetic caretakers patrol the long strands of your genome, reading, checking, repairing. Most of their work goes unnoticed. Successful repairs invisible even to the cell itself. Only their failures would be noticeable, and those failures are rare. The text of your DNA remains largely intact, generation after generation of cells, because this ancient repair system works with silent efficiency. Morning light is more than warmth or brightness. It is a biological signal. When it touches your eyes and skin, it synchronizes the body's internal clock, aligning hormones that govern sleep, metabolism, and repair. Light also helps produce vitamin D, which strengthens bones and supports immune balance. Even your mood responds as serotonin rises with gentle exposure. The body evolved alongside the sun's rhythm, using it as a compass for when to grow, rest, and renew. Your body keeps time through a network of cellular clocks distributed throughout nearly every tissue. These clocks are not metaphorical but biological, driven by feedback loops of genes that turn each other on and off in roughly 24-hour cycles. But without external cues, these clocks would drift out of sync with each other and with the outside world. Each person's internal rhythm runs slightly longer or shorter than exactly 24 hours. Left alone, you would gradually shift later or earlier each day. Light, particularly the blue wavelengths abundant in morning sunlight, provides the reset signal that keeps all these clocks aligned. Specialized cells in the retina detect light levels and send signals directly to a tiny region of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This master clock then coordinates timing throughout the body via nerve signals and hormones. When morning light enters your eyes, it tells this master clock that a new day has begun. The clock responds by suppressing melatonin, the hormone of darkness and sleep. Cortisol levels rise, promoting alertness. Body temperature begins to climb. Metabolism shifts toward energy production. These changes ripple through every system. Digestive enzymes prepare for food intake. Immune cells adjust their patrol patterns. Tissues that repair during night begin shifting back toward maintenance and activity. Without this morning light signal, the transition from night to day becomes less distinct. Sleep may feel less restorative. Energy may lag. The body continues to function, but with less temporal organization. Light exposure later in the day matters too. Bright light in evening hours can delay the clock, making it harder to fall asleep at the desired time. Dim light in the hours before bed allows melatonin to rise naturally, preparing the body for sleep. Our modern environment often provides dim light during the day and bright light at night, the opposite of the natural pattern. This can confuse circadian systems, leading to sleep difficulties and impaired healing. Restoring a more natural light pattern, even partially, helps recalibrate the body's timing. Morning sunlight, even brief exposure, provides the strongest signal. Dimming lights in the evening supports the natural rise of melatonin. Eating at regular times also helps. The digestive system follows circadian patterns. producing enzymes and adjusting metabolism based on expected meal times. Irregular eating confuses these patterns and can impair both digestion and metabolic health. Exposure to natural light during the day and darkness at night provides the strongest time cues. Morning light especially helps reset the master clock, while evening light exposure can delay it, making it harder to fall asleep at desired times. Sunlight also triggers vitamin D production in the skin. When ultraviolet B rays strike the skin, they convert a cholesterol compound into vitamin D, which the body then activates through the liver and kidneys. Vitamin D is essential for calcium absorption and bone health, but it also influences immune function, mood, and cellular growth. Receptors for vitamin D exist in tissues throughout the body, suggesting roles beyond bone metabolism. Many people, especially those in northern latitudes or those who spend most time indoors, do not produce enough vitamin D from sun exposure alone. But even brief time outdoors helps, and the light exposure benefits circadian rhythms regardless of vitamin D production. The connection between light and mood is real and measurable. Seasonal changes in mood, more pronounced in some people than others, correlate with changes in daylight duration. Light therapy using bright artificial light can improve mood during darker months. Serotonin, a neurotransmitter that influences mood and well-being, increases with light exposure. The same signal that wakes the body also lifts emotional tone, connecting wakefulness with a sense of readiness and capability. Let the details blur at the edges. Our ancestors lived entirely by natural light rhythms, and our biology still expects those patterns. Morning light meant opportunity, time to be active and productive. Darkness meant safety, time to rest and restore. These associations are written deep into our physiology. Honoring your body's rhythms is a form of respect for its needs. It is listening to what millions of years of evolution have built into your cells and providing the conditions in which those ancient patterns can function optimally. As you rest now, your body is following its own deep rhythms, shifting into its nighttime mode of repair and renewal. You need not consciously control this. Simply allowing yourself to rest at appropriate times gives your body permission to enter states that support healing most fully. Let your shoulders soften now. Feel the support beneath you, steady and reliable. When you laugh, something remarkable happens beneath the surface. Muscles release tension. The heart rate rises briefly, then settles into steadier rhythm. Endorphins flood the brain, easing pain and heightening calm. Immune cells increase their activity. Blood vessels expand, improving circulation everywhere. Even short bursts of genuine laughter reduce stress hormones that delay recovery, transforming joy into measurable medicine that touches every system at once. Laughter begins as a contraction of the diaphragm and other breathing muscles, producing the characteristic rhythmic exhalations. But this physical act triggers cascades of chemical changes throughout the body. The brain releases endorphins, the body's natural opioids. These molecules bind to receptors in the brain and nervous system, creating feelings of pleasure and reducing pain perception. The effect can last long after the laughter stops. At the same time, Levels of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline decrease. These hormones are useful in short bursts but harmful when constantly elevated. Laughter provides a natural counterbalance, helping the body return to a calmer baseline. The cardiovascular benefits resemble those of light exercise. Heart rate increases during laughter, then decreases below baseline afterward, giving the heart a gentle workout followed by relaxation. Immune function also improves. Natural killer cells, which defend against infections and abnormal cells, increase in number and activity after laughter. Antibody production rises. The immune system becomes more responsive and effective. These are gentle general patterns, not a checklist. Everyone's body is different. Tonight isn't about optimizing. Some of these effects might come from the physical act of breathing deeply and contracting muscles, but studies comparing genuine laughter to forced or simulated laughter suggest the emotional component matters too. Real amusement produces stronger benefits than mechanical mimicry, though even fake laughter can help somewhat. The social aspect of laughter amplifies its effects. Laughing with others creates connection and releases oxytocin, further reducing stress and promoting well-being. Shared laughter synchronizes physiological rhythms between people, creating a sense of bonding. Humor itself has value beyond the physical act of laughing. Finding lightness in difficulty, seeing absurdity in frustration. These shifts in perspective reduce the perceived threat of stressors. The situation may not change, but your relationship to it does. Laughter also interrupts rumination and worry. It is difficult to laugh genuinely while simultaneously feeling anxious or depressed. The laughter creates a brief respite, a moment of relief that can shift overall mood. Even anticipating humor can trigger beneficial changes. Studies have found that simply expecting to watch something funny can reduce stress hormones and increase endorphins before the experience even begins. The body does not distinguish between different sources of laughter. Whether the humor comes from a joke, a playful interaction, or a moment of absurdity, the physiological benefits are similar. Joy is joy, regardless of its source. Children laugh far more frequently than adults, sometimes hundreds of times per day compared to an adult's dozen or so. This natural inclination toward laughter may be one reason children often recover quickly from minor illnesses and injuries. Relearning playfulness, allowing yourself moments of silliness or amusement, provides real health benefits. Laughter is not frivolous or wasteful. It is a form of medicine that costs nothing and has no negative side effects. The sound of laughter itself can be contagious. Hearing others laugh activates similar brain regions as laughing yourself, making it easier to join in. This social transmission of mirth may have evolutionary roots in group bonding and stress reduction. So when you find yourself smiling or laughing, even at small things, know that your body is responding with a cascade of healing chemistry. Each moment of genuine amusement is a gift you give to every cell, every system, every quiet process of renewal happening within you right now. Nothing to remember here, nothing to solve, just resting as the body continues its gentle work. The digestive tract faces one of the harshest environments in your body. yet its lining replaces itself completely every few days, creating a fresh surface capable of absorbing nutrients while keeping harmful invaders out. Stem cells at the base of microscopic folds divide rapidly, sending new cells upward to replace those that have served their brief duty. This constant rebuilding protects both digestion and immunity, ensuring balance even when challenged by what you consume. The inside of your intestines is lined with a single layer of cells, remarkably thin considering what it must withstand. On one side flows partially digested food, stomach acid, digestive enzymes, and billions of bacteria. On the other side flows your bloodstream, which must remain protected from these potentially harmful substances. These intestinal cells live only about 3 to 5 days before being replaced. This rapid turnover is necessary because the environment they work in is so chemically aggressive that cells wear out quickly. At the base of tiny finger-like projections called villi, stem cells reside in protected pockets. These cells divide continuously, creating a steady supply of new intestinal cells. One daughter cell remains a stem cell, maintaining the reserve. The other begins differentiating into the specialized cells needed for the intestinal lining. As new cells form, they push older cells upward along the villi toward the tip. This constant upward migration means the intestinal surface is always being refreshed from below, like a very slow conveyor belt. The cells at the top, having completed their few days of service, naturally detach and are swept away with the flow of digestion. This shedding is not damage but planned obsolescence, ensuring the barrier stays fresh and functional. Different types of cells form during this process. Some specialize in absorbing nutrients, their surfaces covered with even tinier projections that increase surface area. Others produce mucus that protects the lining. Still others release antimicrobial compounds that help control bacterial populations. The speed and precision of this renewal is remarkable. If the process slowed even slightly, gaps would form in the barrier, allowing bacteria or toxins to cross into the bloodstream. If it accelerated without control, the tissue would become disorganized and unable to function properly. The gut lining is also deeply connected to the immune system. More immune cells reside in and around the intestinal tract than anywhere else in the body. They constantly sample what passes through, learning to distinguish food from threat, helpful bacteria from harmful ones. This education happens in specialized tissue just beneath the intestinal lining, where immune cells encounter fragments of everything that passes through the gut. Over time, the immune system builds a library of recognition, becoming increasingly sophisticated at identifying what belongs and what requires response. When the gut lining is healthy and renewing properly, this immune education proceeds smoothly. The body learns tolerance for food and beneficial bacteria while remaining vigilant against pathogens. When renewal is disrupted by stress, poor nutrition or inflammation, problems can arise. Gaps may form in the barrier. Immune responses may become confused or overactive. The connection between gut health and overall well-being becomes clear. Supporting gut lining renewal does not require anything complex. Adequate protein provides the building blocks for new cells. Fiber feeds beneficial bacteria that produce compounds supporting the intestinal barrier. Sufficient sleep gives the repair process uninterrupted time to work, but mostly this renewal happens automatically, driven by stem cells that have been replacing gut lining in animals for hundreds of millions of years. The process is ancient, reliable, and continues every moment whether you think about it or not. Right now, even as you rest, new intestinal cells are being born, maturing, and taking their place in the living barrier that allows you to extract nourishment from the world while staying protected from its dangers. And still, the quiet repair continues. For centuries, the heart was thought incapable of renewal. Scientists now know that small populations of cells deep within cardiac muscle can divide and regenerate, slowly but persistently. New blood vessels form after injury, building subtle pathways to maintain circulation. Though the process is limited, it reveals potential. The heart that never rests also never stops trying to restore itself, beating with quiet determination toward its own repair. The discovery that the heart can regenerate even to a limited degree changed fundamental assumptions about cardiac biology. For decades, textbooks stated definitively that heart muscle cells, once damaged, could never be replaced. But careful studies using radioactive carbon dating and other techniques revealed that new heart cells do form throughout life. The rate is slow, perhaps roughly 1% of heart muscle cells replaced per year in young adulthood, declining to less than 0.5% annually in older age. This means that over a lifetime, a significant portion of the heart is renewed, not enough to recover from major damage without help, but enough to maintain function and repair minor wear over decades of constant beating. The source of these new cells was debated for years. Researchers now know that small populations of cardiac stem cells and progenitor cells exist within the heart itself, capable of dividing and maturing into new muscle cells when needed. These cells remain mostly quiet during normal conditions, but injury or stress can activate them. When heart muscle is damaged, signals released from the injury site awaken these dormant cells to begin dividing. The new cells migrate toward damaged areas and integrate into existing tissue, contributing to repair. The process is slow and often incomplete, but it demonstrates that the heart possesses inherent regenerative capacity that medicine is learning to support and enhance. Beyond creating new muscle cells, the heart has a remarkable ability to form new blood vessels. This process, called angiogenesis, becomes especially important when existing vessels are blocked or damaged. Cells in the vessel walls detect low oxygen levels and release growth factors. These chemical signals stimulate nearby cells to sprout new capillary branches, creating detours around blockages and restoring blood flow to starved tissue. This collateral circulation develops gradually, like tributaries forming around a blocked river. While it cannot always fully replace major vessels, it can significantly improve blood supply and reduce damage. Exercise encourages both cardiac cell renewal and new vessel formation. The increased demand for blood flow during activity triggers growth signals. Over time, regular movement can actually increase the heart's capacity to supply itself with oxygen and nutrients. Emotional state influences cardiac healing as well. Chronic stress impairs the regenerative processes, while calmness and social connection support them. The heart, it seems, responds not just to physical demands but to emotional environment. Research into cardiac regeneration continues to advance. Scientists study animals like zebrafish and newts, which can completely regrow damaged heart tissue, searching for genetic programs that might be reactivated in humans. Some experimental therapies aim to boost the heart's natural regeneration by delivering growth factors or stem cells directly to damaged areas. While still in development, these approaches show promise for supporting the heart's own healing capacity. The heart's limited but real ability to renew itself offers hope and changes how we think about cardiac health. This organ, beating more than 2 billion times in an average lifetime, does not simply wear out passively. It actively maintains itself, replacing cells and vessels throughout its life. Even small acts that support cardiovascular health, like gentle exercise, adequate sleep, and stress reduction, work in part by supporting these inherent regenerative processes. You're not just preventing damage but helping your heart help itself. As you rest now, your heart continues its tireless work. And deep within its muscle, quiet processes of renewal proceed at their own patient pace, guided by programs of repair and restoration written into life itself. The moment skin is breached, tiny cell fragments called platelets sense the change instantly. They rush to the site, sticking together to form a temporary seal that stops bleeding. But their work extends further. They release growth factors that attract immune cells, stimulate collagen production, and encourage new blood vessels to form. Without them, wounds would remain unorganized and open. Their timing is astonishingly precise, arriving within seconds and setting the rhythm for everything that follows. Platelets are not complete cells, but fragments of larger cells called megakaryocytes that reside in bone marrow. Each megakaryocyte breaks into thousands of platelets, releasing them into the bloodstream where they circulate, waiting for the moment they are needed. Despite their small size and simple structure, platelets carry a sophisticated cargo of proteins and growth factors. When injury occurs, this cargo becomes the molecular toolkit that initiates healing. The process begins when blood vessels are damaged. Normally, vessel walls are lined with smooth endothelial cells that discourage platelet adhesion. But when the lining is broken, the underlying collagen is exposed. Platelets have receptors that recognize collagen immediately. Upon contact, they activate, changing shape from smooth discs to spiky spheres with multiple projections. These projections help them stick to the wound site and to each other. As platelets accumulate, they release the contents of their internal granules. This includes substances that make nearby platelets more sticky, creating a cascade of recruitment. One platelet attracts others, which attract still more, rapidly building a plug. But the platelet plug alone is not enough to seal a wound permanently. It is only a temporary barrier. The real work begins with the chemical signals platelets release. Platelets release multiple growth factors that guide repair. One attracts fibroblasts to the wound, the cells that will produce collagen for lasting repair. Another stimulates the formation of new blood vessels. Healing tissue needs oxygen and nutrients which require circulation. Other signals regulate immune responses and help coordinate the transition from initial clotting to active tissue repair. Platelets even contain small amounts of serotonin, which causes nearby blood vessels to constrict, reducing blood loss. This same molecule that affects mood and digestion plays a role in stopping bleeding. The coordination required for all this to work properly is remarkable. Platelets must activate only when truly needed, forming clots at injury sites but not in healthy vessels. They must release their signals in the right sequence and amount, and they must know when to stop once the initial clotting phase is complete. Aspirin and similar medications work by interfering with platelet activation, which is why they can prevent harmful blood clots but also increase bleeding risk. The same process that stops bleeding from cuts also, when overactive, can cause heart attacks and strokes. Platelet disorders illustrate their importance. Too few platelets lead to easy bruising and dangerous bleeding. Too many or too sticky platelets increase clotting risk. The body maintains platelet numbers and function within careful ranges. After completing their role in early healing, platelets are eventually cleared away as more permanent structures form. But their contribution remains essential. They are the first responders, the organizers, the chemical messengers that transform a breach in tissue into a coordinated healing response. All of this happens in seconds and minutes, automatically, every time your body is injured. No conscious thought required, no deliberate action needed. Just a system doing what it has done for as long as blood has flowed through vessels, refined over countless generations. You can simply rest with that knowledge. Your body knows how to respond to injury. The mechanisms are already in place, waiting, always ready. Slow, deliberate breaths do more than calm the mind. Each inhalation sends mechanical and chemical signals through your body, shifting the nervous system toward rest. Heart rate slows, blood vessels widen, stress hormones decrease. Inside cells, genes linked to inflammation quiet down while those connected to repair grow more active. Oxygen levels rise, fueling the mitochondria that power every act of recovery. Breath becomes both messenger and medicine. Breathing is unique among body functions. It happens automatically but can also be controlled consciously. This dual nature makes it a bridge between voluntary and involuntary systems, between conscious mind and subconscious body. When you breathe slowly and deeply, several things happen simultaneously. The diaphragm, the large muscle below your lungs, contracts and pulls downward. This creates space for the lungs to expand and draw air in. But the diaphragm's movement also creates gentle pressure changes in the chest and abdomen. These pressure changes stimulate the vagus nerve, a major nerve that connects the brain to the heart, lungs, and digestive system. The vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes rest and restoration. Stimulating it through deep breathing shifts your entire nervous system away from stress and toward recovery. Heart rate becomes more variable with deep breathing, speeding slightly on inhalation and slowing on exhalation. This variability is a sign of healthy nervous system function and improves the heart's ability to adapt to changing demands. Blood vessels dilate throughout the body, improving circulation. More oxygen reaches tissues, carbon dioxide is removed more efficiently. The exchange that keeps every cell alive becomes more effective. Deep breathing also influences hormone release. Cortisol, the stress hormone, decreases. Growth hormone and other repair-supporting hormones increase. The body interprets slow breathing as a signal that it's safe to shift resources toward maintenance and healing. At the cellular level, changes occur in gene expression. Genes that promote inflammation become less active. Genes that support tissue repair become more active. Breathing influences what instructions your cells are following. The improved oxygenation helps mitochondria work more efficiently. With better fuel supply, they can generate more energy for all cellular activities, including repair. Even the brain benefits. Blood flow improves. The clearance of waste products increases. Different breathing patterns have different effects. Slow, even breaths promote calm. Slightly longer exhalations than inhalations further activate the parasympathetic system. Natural, relaxed breathing without effort allows the body to find its own rhythm. Ancient practices like yoga and meditation discovered these principles through centuries of observation, long before modern science could explain the mechanisms. The breath has always been recognized as a tool for calming the body and mind. You do not need to breathe in any particular pattern right now. Simply allowing your breath to slow naturally, to deepen without force, is enough. Your body knows how to breathe in ways that support rest and healing. Let the words drift past you now. There is nothing you need to remember or practice. The breath continues on its own, as it has since your first moment of life. Each inhalation brings renewal. Each exhalation releases what is no longer needed. Neurons are not fixed in place. When injury occurs, surrounding cells form new connections to restore lost functions. This capacity, called neuroplasticity, allows the brain to adapt and reorganize throughout life. Therapy, learning, and sensory experiences strengthen new pathways. The brain redraws its own map whenever needed, sometimes taking months or years, but never truly stopping. Every challenge overcome, every skill learned, activates this same resilience. For much of history, the brain was thought to be unchangeable after childhood. Once neural connections formed during development, they were believed to remain fixed for life. Brain damage was considered permanent and irreversible. Research over recent decades has completely transformed this understanding. The brain, it turns out, remains plastic and capable of change throughout the entire lifespan. This plasticity operates through several mechanisms. Neurons can form new connections with other neurons, creating pathways that did not exist before. Existing connections can become stronger through repeated use or weaker through disuse. In some brain regions, entirely new neurons can form even in adulthood. The hippocampus, involved in learning and memory, continues generating new neurons throughout life. These fresh cells integrate into existing circuits and contribute to ongoing brain function. When injury damages part of the brain, nearby healthy tissue can take over some of the lost functions. If the area controlling movement in the right hand is damaged, adjacent areas may gradually expand their territory to include right hand control. This reorganization is not instantaneous. It requires time, repetition, and often deliberate practice. but the fact that it happens at all represents a fundamental capacity for recovery that was once thought impossible. Sensory deprivation studies show how quickly the brain adapts. When one sense is blocked, brain areas normally devoted to that sense begin responding to other inputs. Blessed individuals, for example, often show enhanced auditory processing in visual areas of the brain. Learning new skills drives plastic changes. When you practice a musical instrument, areas controlling finger movement expand. When you study a new language, language processing regions develop new connections and increase in size. Even reading these words right now, though you will not remember them, involves tiny plastic changes. Neurons that fire together in patterns become more likely to fire together again. This is how memory forms, through the strengthening of connections between cells activated simultaneously. Physical exercise promotes neuroplasticity by increasing production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports neuron growth and survival. Movement benefits the brain at least as much as it benefits muscles. Sleep plays a crucial role in consolidating plastic changes. During rest, the brain replays patterns from waking experience, strengthening important connections while pruning away less useful ones. This editing process refines learning and makes new skills more automatic. Stress and inflammation can impair neuroplasticity, which is one reason chronic stress affects memory and learning. Conversely, environments that promote calm and engagement support the brain's ability to change and adapt. Neuroplasticity offers hope for recovery after stroke, injury, or disease. Rehabilitation that provides appropriate challenges and repetition can help the brain find new ways to accomplish tasks that old pathways no longer support. But plasticity is not only about recovery from damage, it is the mechanism of all learning, all adaptation, all growth throughout life. Every experience subtly reshapes the brain for better or worse. This means the brain you have now is different from the one you had last year, shaped by everything you have experienced in the time between. And the brain you will have next year will be shaped by what happens between now and then. The capacity for change never fully disappears. It may slow with age, require more effort or repetition, but it persists. The brain remains responsive, adaptable, capable of forming new patterns of connection until the very end of life. As you rest now, your brain is processing the day's experiences, consolidating memories, and making subtle adjustments to its structure. This happens without effort or awareness. The plastic changes that allow learning and healing proceed on their own while you simply rest and let go. And you can let these thoughts float away now. They've served their purpose. The knowing remains without needing to be held. Belief in recovery changes your body's chemistry. Hope influences the release of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, all of which support immune balance and cellular renewal. When you anticipate improvement, the nervous system relaxes, circulation improves, inflammation subsides. The body listens to what the mind believes, translating optimism into tangible biological signals that guide energy toward rebuilding rather than retreating. This connection between expectation and physiology has been documented in countless studies. People who believe they will recover from illness or injury often do so more quickly than those who expect the worst, even when their conditions are medically similar. The mechanism involves real changes in brain chemistry. When you hold a hopeful thought, neural pathways associated with reward and motivation become active. The brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that does far more than create feelings of pleasure. Dopamine influences immune function. Immune cells have receptors for this molecule, and when it binds to them, their behavior changes. They become more active in fighting infection and more efficient at coordinating repair. Serotonin, another neurotransmitter elevated by hopeful outlook, plays similar roles. It modulates inflammation, influences gut function, and affects how pain signals are processed. Higher serotonin often means lower pain perception and better digestive healing. Endorphins, the body's natural pain relievers, also increase with positive expectations. These molecules bind to the same receptors as opioid drugs, but are produced by your own nervous system in response to thoughts, experiences, and beliefs. The effect is not merely psychological comfort. Brain scans show that areas involved in pain processing become less active when people expect relief, even before any treatment is given. The anticipation itself changes neural activity. This phenomenon extends to the autonomic nervous system, which controls functions like heart rate, breathing, and digestion. Hopeful states shift this system toward its parasympathetic mode, the rest and repair mode. When the nervous system relaxes, blood vessels dilate, blood pressure decreases, circulation to internal organs and healing tissues improves, more oxygen and nutrients reach cells engaged in repair work. The immune system responds to this relaxation by reducing inflammatory signaling. Chronic inflammation impairs healing by creating chemical conditions hostile to cell growth and tissue formation. When inflammation decreases, repair can proceed more efficiently. Stress hormones like cortisol decline when hope is present. Cortisol is useful in short bursts but harmful when persistently elevated. It suppresses immune function, slows wound healing, and interferes with sleep. Hope provides a natural counter to cortisol's effects. Even the expression of genes can be influenced by mental state. Studies of meditation and positive psychology interventions show changes in gene activity related to inflammation, immune response, and cellular aging. This does not mean you can simply think your way out of illness. Physical conditions require appropriate medical care. But within the context of that care, your mental state influences outcomes measurably. Hope is not denial or unrealistic optimism. It is the belief that effort matters, that improvement is possible, that the future may be better than the present. This moderate, grounded form of hope produces the strongest benefits. The effect may work partly through behavior. Hopeful people are more likely to follow treatment plans, engage in rehabilitation, eat well, and rest adequately. But studies controlling for these behaviors still find direct effects of expectation on healing. Something becomes clear in this realization. Your expectations are not separate from your biology. The line between mind and body is more permeable than it might seem. What you believe about your healing helps determine what your cells do about it. This is not a burden. requiring you to maintain perfect optimism at all times. It is simply an invitation to notice that hopeful thoughts, when they arise naturally, support the work your body is already doing. Right now, you need not hold any particular belief about your health or future. Simply allowing yourself to rest, to trust that your body knows what to do, is its own form of hope. The body interprets that trust as safety, and in safety, healing proceeds most naturally. When the mind rests in stillness, the body follows. Heart rate slows. Breathing deepens. Beneath the surface, gene activity shifts. Inflammation markers decrease while antioxidant and repair pathways activate. Cortisol drops to levels that allow tissue regeneration to proceed unhindered. Regular practice improves sleep and strengthens immunity, giving the body more time and resources to mend. What feels like simple awareness is truly physiological rebalancing. Meditation, in its many forms, represents one of the most studied mind-body interventions. Researchers have documented its effects using blood tests, brain scans, genetic analysis, and long-term health outcomes. Even brief periods of meditation produce measurable changes. After about 8 weeks of regular practice, studies show structural changes in brain regions involved in memory, sense of self, and emotional regulation. But the effects extend far beyond the brain. The entire body responds to the state of calm awareness that meditation cultivates. One of the most consistent findings is reduced inflammation. Inflammatory markers in the blood decrease with regular meditation practice. This matters because chronic inflammation underlies many health conditions and slows healing throughout the body. Gene expression changes as well. Genes that promote inflammation become less active. Genes that produce antioxidants and support cellular repair become more active. The same genome expresses itself differently depending on whether the person meditates regularly. These changes help explain why meditation improves recovery from illness and injury. With less inflammation and more active repair mechanisms, tissues heal more efficiently. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, decreases during and after meditation. This drop is important because elevated cortisol suppresses immune function, impairs memory formation, and redirects energy away from repair processes. When cortisol remains high chronically, the body stays in a defensive mode unsuited for healing. Meditation helps break this cycle, allowing cortisol to return to healthy levels that support rather than hinder restoration. The immune system becomes more balanced with regular meditation. Natural killer cell activity increases, enhancing the body's ability to defend against infection and abnormal cells. At the same time, autoimmune and allergic overreactions tend to decrease. Sleep quality improves, which further supports healing. Meditation seems to make it easier to fall asleep and to spend more time in the deep, restorative stages of sleep where most physical repair occurs. The practice also affects how pain is experienced. Brain regions involved in pain processing show less activity in experienced meditators. Pain sensations may still occur, but they generate less suffering and distress. This change happens partly through reduced emotional reactivity. Meditation strengthens areas of the brain involved in regulating emotions, making it easier to experience discomfort without becoming overwhelmed by it. Blood pressure decreases with regular meditation, reducing strain on the cardiovascular system. Heart rate variability, a measure of the heart's ability to adapt to changing demands, increases. Both changes indicate improved cardiovascular health. Meditation does not require years of practice to produce benefits. Even beginners show measurable changes after a few weeks of daily practice. The key seems to be regularity rather than duration. 10 minutes daily often produces better results than longer but sporadic sessions. Different forms of meditation may emphasize different aspects: focused attention on breath, open awareness of thoughts and sensations, or cultivation of specific feelings like compassion. But most share the common element of bringing the mind into the present moment with gentle, non-judgmental attention. You need not practice formal meditation right now. Simply resting as you are, allowing thoughts to drift without following them, letting your body settle into stillness, creates similar physiological conditions. The state you are in at this moment, hovering between waking and sleep, carries its own restorative power. Your nervous system recognizes this as a time for healing. Muscles release their tension. Breathing finds its own rhythm, and deep within, cellular repair proceeds at its own pace. The heart generates patterns of rhythm that shift with emotion. When gratitude arises, heart rhythms become smooth and coherent, synchronizing with breathing and brain waves. This state of coherence improves circulation and reduces stress hormones, allowing the immune system to operate efficiently. Daily gratitude shows measurable decreases in inflammation and better recovery outcomes. The feeling itself signals safety and restoration throughout every system. The heart produces an electrical field with every beat, and its pattern reflects more than just heart rate. When graphed over time, heart rate shows continuous variation. The time between beats is never exactly the same. This variation, called heart rate variability, provides information about the state of the nervous system. Certain patterns of heart rate variability indicate stress and imbalance. The rhythm becomes irregular and chaotic looking. Other patterns indicate coherence and calm. The rhythm becomes smooth and wave-like. Gratitude is one of the emotions most consistently associated with coherent heart rhythms. When people recall something they feel grateful for, their heart rate variability pattern typically shifts within seconds toward this smooth, coherent state. This shift is not just aesthetic. Coherent heart rhythms indicate that the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system are working in balanced coordination rather than fighting each other. When the heart enters coherence, this state influences the brain. The heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, and these signals affect emotional processing and cognitive function. Brainwave patterns synchronize with the coherent heart rhythm. Different regions of the brain begin operating in greater harmony. This integration often correlates with feelings of clarity, ease, and well-being. Blood pressure tends to decrease during heart coherence. Stress hormones drop. Blood flow to the digestive system and extremities improves. The body shifts resources towards maintenance and repair rather than emergency response. The immune system responds to this state as well. inflammatory signaling decreases, antibody production may increase. The overall balance of immune function improves, becoming neither overactive nor suppressed. Gratitude does not need to be profound or directed at major life events. Studies show that appreciating small things, a comfortable bed, a deep breath, a moment of quiet, produces similar physiological benefits as gratitude for life-changing experiences. The practice of noticing and appreciating seems to train the nervous system towards states that support healing. People who regularly reflect on what they are grateful for show better health outcomes across various measures. This is not about forcing positive thinking or denying difficulties. It is simply about allowing attention to rest on aspects of experience that evoke appreciation when they are present. Even imagining gratitude, if genuine feeling does not arise spontaneously, can shift physiology. The body responds to imagined emotional states much as it does to spontaneous ones, though perhaps less strongly. The connection between gratitude and heart rhythms reveals something fundamental about how emotions and physical health intertwine. What you feel changes measurable aspects of cardiovascular function in real time. The heart is not simply a pump, but a sensory organ that responds to emotional state and sends information about that state throughout the body. Gratitude gives the heart a signal of safety, which it then broadcasts to every system through its rhythmic patterns. You need not generate gratitude deliberately right now. If appreciation for this moment of rest arises naturally, that is enough. If it does not, that is equally fine. Simply allowing yourself to be here, breathing easily, is sufficient. Let your jaw release any tension. Let your breath be easy and unhurried. Acts of compassion, whether offered or received, reduce cortisol and release oxytocin. Blood pressure decreases. Digestion improves. The immune system becomes more responsive. Compassion creates a physiological environment of safety, signaling that maintenance and repair can resume. Even imagining kindness produces measurable changes, showing that healing often begins in recognition of shared humanity. Compassion, the recognition of suffering coupled with the desire to help, activates specific patterns in the brain and body. These patterns can be observed in brain scans and measured through blood chemistry. When people feel compassion, regions of the brain associated with caregiving, reward, and social connection become active. These are ancient brain areas shared with other mammals linked to parental care and social bonding. The activation of these regions triggers the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin does far more than create emotional warmth. It has direct effect throughout the body. Blood vessels relax when oxytocin is present, reducing blood pressure and improving circulation. The heart rate often slows and becomes more rhythmic. The entire cardiovascular system shifts toward a calmer, more efficient mode of operation. Digestion improves because oxytocin promotes parasympathetic nervous activity. The stomach and intestines can focus on their work of breaking down food and absorbing nutrients when the body is not in stress mode. The immune system responds to oxytocin by balancing its activity. Excessive inflammation decreases. The production of antibodies may increase. The system becomes more discerning. better able to distinguish real threats from harmless stimuli. Cortisol, the stress hormone that impairs healing when chronically elevated, decreases in response to compassionate feelings. This happens whether you are giving or receiving compassion. Both states signal safety to the nervous system. Brain studies show that compassion can be cultivated through practice. People who engage in compassion meditation show increased activity in brain regions associated with empathy and reduced activity in areas linked to stress and anxiety. But formal practice is not necessary to experience these benefits. Simply thinking about someone you care about with warm feelings activates similar pathways. Receiving kindness from another person does the same. The effect even occurs when compassion is directed toward yourself. Self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend, produces measurable reductions in stress hormones and improvements in emotional regulation. Remarkably, even imagining acts of compassion can shift physiology. When research participants are asked to visualize helping someone in need, their bodies respond with many of the same changes as if they were actually performing the act. This suggests that compassion works partly through the meaning the mind assigns to a situation. The interpretation of an interaction as caring and supportive triggers biological responses aligned with safety and healing. Social connection in general promotes healing, and compassion is often the emotional foundation of meaningful connection. People who feel cared for recover more quickly from illness and injury. Those who care for others, when not overwhelmed by the responsibility, often show better health than socially isolated individuals. The recognition of shared humanity that underlies compassion may be particularly important. When you recognize that suffering is part of the human experience, that everyone faces difficulties, it can reduce the sense of isolation that often accompanies illness or pain. This recognition shifts the frame from "why is this happening to me?" to "this is part of what happens to people." That shift, subtle as it seems, can reduce stress and allow energy to flow toward coping rather than resistance. Compassion reminds the body that you are not alone, that connection is possible even in difficulty. The nervous system interprets this as safety, and in that interpretation, healing finds better conditions in which to unfold. Gentle touch triggers immediate responses. Oxytocin rises, cortisol falls, heart rate steadies. The body reads contact as safety, and the nervous system shifts toward repair. In hospitals, simple hand-holding eases pain and anxiety, accelerating recovery. The same mechanism explains why massage, hugs, or even petting animals can soothe and stabilize, turning connection into cellular medicine. The skin is the body's largest organ and one of its most sensitive. It contains millions of receptors that respond to pressure, temperature, texture, and vibration. These receptors send continuous streams of information to the brain about the state of the world and the body's relationship to it. Gentle touch activates specific nerve fibers that signal safety and comfort. These fibers, called C-tactile afferents, respond specifically to slow, gentle stroking and light pressure. They connect to brain regions involved in emotion and social bonding, rather than to areas that simply process sensation. When these fibers are activated, they trigger the release of oxytocin in both the person touching and the person being touched. This creates a biological loop of mutual calming and connection. Oxytocin has direct effects on the nervous system. It reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. It increases activity in regions associated with reward and social connection. This subjective experience is often described as warmth, safety, or comfort, but the effects extend throughout the body. Blood pressure decreases with gentle touch. Heart rate becomes more regular and often slows. Breathing deepens and becomes more rhythmic. The immune system responds as well. Studies of massage therapy show increased natural killer cell activity and improved markers of immune function. Even brief sessions of gentle touch can measurably boost immune parameters. Pain perception decreases with appropriate touch. The mechanisms are multiple. Touch activates large nerve fibers that can block pain signals from reaching conscious awareness. It also triggers the release of endorphins, natural pain relievers, and it reduces the emotional distress that often amplifies physical pain. In hospitals, something as simple as holding a patient's hand during a painful procedure reduces both the reported pain intensity and the amount of pain medication needed. The presence and contact provide comfort that translates directly into physiological change. Massage therapy has been shown to speed healing of various conditions. Post-surgical patients who receive massage need less pain medication and often recover more quickly. The mechanical effects of massage improving circulation and lymphatic drainage combine with neurochemical effects of touch to support healing. The benefits of touch extend to premature infants, who grow faster and have fewer complications when they receive regular gentle contact. The youngest humans respond to touch as a signal that they are safe and cared for, triggering biological programs of growth and development. Adults retain this response throughout life. Touch continues to signal safety at a primal level. Even when we intellectually know we are safe, the body responds more completely to physical contact than to words or thoughts alone. The touch does not need to be from another person. Petting an animal produces similar oxytocin release and stress reduction. Self-touch, like placing a hand over your heart or giving yourself a gentle shoulder rub, activates some of the same pathways. What matters is the quality of the touch, gentle, slow, conveying care rather than urgency. The skin and nervous system are highly attuned to intention communicated through contact. In a world where casual touch has become less common, where many people spend long periods without physical contact, the healing power of touch deserves recognition. It is not optional or merely pleasant, but a biological need, as real as the need for sleep or nourishment. As you rest now, you might notice the contact between your body and the surface supporting it, the gentle pressure, the sense of being held. This too is a form of touch, a message to your nervous system that you are supported and safe. That simple recognition can be enough to allow deeper relaxation and the healing it brings. Just listening now, just breathing. These ideas can drift through your mind like clouds across a quiet sky. Every infection you survive leaves memory cells that patrol quietly through blood and tissue. When the same threat appears again, these sentinels respond instantly, producing antibodies before symptoms begin. This biological memory can last decades, sometimes lifetimes, creating cumulative wisdom that grows with every encounter. Your body keeps a living archive of victories ready to protect you again. The immune system's ability to remember is one of its most remarkable features. After encountering a pathogen, specialized cells called memory B cells and memory T cells remain in circulation long after the infection has cleared. These cells carry precise molecular records of the invader they encountered. They remember the shape of proteins on the pathogen's surface, the patterns that distinguish it from everything else in the world. Most of these memory cells rest quietly, circulating through blood and lymphatic tissue, waiting. They may wait for years or decades without ever encountering their specific target again. But they remain vigilant, ready to respond at any moment. When the same pathogen appears a second time, memory cells recognize it immediately. They do not need to learn or adapt. They already know exactly what to do. Memory B cells begin producing antibodies within hours instead of the days or weeks required during a first infection. These antibodies flood into the bloodstream, binding to the pathogen and marking it for destruction before it can establish itself. Memory T cells activate and multiply rapidly, coordinating immune responses and directly attacking infected cells. The response is faster, stronger, and more targeted than the initial encounter. This is why many childhood illnesses do not return. Chickenpox, measles, mumps. Once you have recovered, memory cells provide protection that typically lasts a lifetime. The pathogen may enter your body again, but it is eliminated before causing symptoms. Vaccines work by creating these memory cells without requiring actual illness. They introduce harmless versions or fragments of pathogens, training the immune system to recognize and remember threats it has never truly faced. The longevity of immune memory varies. Some memory cells persist for decades with little decline in function. Others gradually diminish, which is why certain vaccines require boosters to maintain protection. Memory cells do not simply exist in isolation. They undergo subtle changes over time, a process called affinity maturation. Even years after initial exposure, they continue refining their recognition capabilities, becoming more precise and effective. The immune system also remembers patterns of infection. If you are exposed to one strain of a virus, memory cells may provide partial protection against related strains, recognizing shared features even in slightly different pathogens. This cross-protection explains why prior exposure to similar viruses can lessen the severity of new infections. The memory is not perfect, but it provides a head start that can make all the difference. The existence of immunological memory represents cumulative learning at the cellular level. Your immune system today is educated by every infection you have ever survived, every vaccine you have received, every encounter with foreign substances. This library of recognition is unique to you, shaped by your individual history of exposures. No two people carry identical immune memories, just as no two people have identical life experiences. The cells themselves are constantly being renewed, but the memory persists. When a memory cell divides, both daughter cells retain the same recognition capability, passing the memory forward through generations of cells. Some memory cells take up residence in specific tissues, stationed where particular pathogens are most likely to enter. Memory cells that recognize respiratory viruses concentrate in the lungs and airways. Those trained against gut pathogens remain in intestinal tissue. This positioning creates layers of defense, with the most relevant memories stationed at the most vulnerable entry points. The immune system learns not just what threats exist, but where they are likely to appear. The capacity to form new immune memories does decline with age, which is one reason older adults are more vulnerable to new infections. But existing memories typically remain intact, providing continued protection against familiar threats. This accumulated wisdom is part of what allows humans to live as long as we do. Without immunological memory, every infection would be as dangerous as the first time, and surviving to old age would be nearly impossible. The system is not perfect. Sometimes memory cells lose their effectiveness. Sometimes pathogens evolve to evade recognition. But the basic principle remains one of biology's most elegant solutions to the problem of recurrent threats. Your body right now carries memories of countless encounters, a living history written in the molecular structure of immune cells. This history protected you constantly, mostly without your awareness, allowing you to move through a world full of potential threats with remarkable safety. When infection strikes, the body raises its temperature deliberately. Heat accelerates immune reactions, speeds white blood cell production, and weakens invading microbes. As fever peaks, toxins are neutralized and damaged cells recycled. When the threat passes, the brain resets to normal, allowing calm to return. Though uncomfortable, fever is purification, proof that heat itself can be medicine. Fever is not a malfunction but an ancient defensive strategy. When immune cells detect infection, they release signaling molecules called pyrogens. These molecules travel through the bloodstream to the brain, specifically to a region called the hypothalamus that controls body temperature. The hypothalamus acts as the body's thermostat. When it receives pyrogen signals, it deliberately raises the temperature set point, triggering mechanisms to generate and conserve heat. You may experience chills even though your temperature is rising. This happens because your body is trying to reach the new, higher set point. Muscles shiver to generate heat. Blood vessels constrict to reduce heat loss through the skin. Once the new temperature is reached, the chills stop, but you feel warm or hot. Your body is now operating at an elevated temperature that serves specific purposes. Many pathogens, bacteria and viruses alike, are sensitive to temperature. They evolved to function optimally at normal body temperature. Even a few degrees of increase can impair their ability to reproduce and survive. At the same time, the immune system operates more efficiently at higher temperatures. White blood cells move faster, multiply more quickly, and perform their defensive functions with greater effectiveness. The heat also accelerates chemical reactions throughout the body. Enzymes involved in immune responses work faster. The production of antibodies increases. The entire immune system shifts into a higher gear. Fever triggers the production of heat shock proteins, molecules that help protect cells from stress and damage. These proteins support the immune response and help repair any cellular damage caused by the infection itself. As the fever progresses, the body enters an intensive phase of fighting the infection and clearing away damaged tissue. Metabolic rate increases, more energy is consumed. This is why fever often comes with fatigue, the body redirecting resources toward the immune battle. The discomfort of fever, the aches, the exhaustion, these are signals encouraging rest. Rest conserves energy for immune function and prevents you from spreading infection to others. The discomfort serves a purpose even as it feels unpleasant. When the infection is controlled, immune cells stop releasing pyrogens. The hypothalamus lowers the temperature set point back to normal. Now the body works to cool itself, dilating blood vessels and producing sweat. This cooling phase often brings relief. The fever breaks, as people sometimes say, and with it comes a sense that the worst has passed. Often, this corresponds with the immune system gaining the upper hand. Not all fevers require treatment. Moderate fevers in otherwise healthy people often resolve on their own and may help speed recovery. The body's natural response is usually effective when given time. Very high fevers or fevers in vulnerable individuals do require medical attention. The body's thermostat can occasionally set the temperature too high, creating risk rather than benefit. But most fevers stay within a range that aids healing. The fever response is so ancient that even cold-blooded animals practice a version of it. When infected, they seek warmer environments, behaviorally raising their body temperature to gain the same defensive advantages. This suggests that using heat to fight infection is one of life's oldest strategies, refined over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. The mechanism exists in you because it has proven effective across countless generations. Fever represents the body's willingness to make itself temporarily uncomfortable for the sake of long-term health. It is a sacrifice of immediate comfort for future well-being, carried out automatically by systems that understand this trade-off better than conscious thought ever could. As the fever does its work, transformation occurs. Invaders are weakened. Immune cells are mobilized. Damaged tissue is marked for recycling. The heat that feels so uncomfortable is actually purification, burning through illness to restore balance. When fever subsides and cool comfort returns, it brings with it a particular form of peace, the peace of having survived. The peace of the body's wisdom having done its work, the quiet satisfaction of recovery beginning. Within your bloodstream, immune cells emit faint pulses of light called biophotons. Researchers have detected this tiny flashes during immune responses, revealing another layer of biological communication. Some scientists wonder whether these signals carry information about cellular activity and coordination. The full meaning is still being explored. You're not only matter, but light. Healing guided by invisible radiance. Light emission from living cells was once considered impossible or irrelevant, but sensitive instruments have now detected and measured these faint photons coming from tissues throughout the body. Every cell emits some level of light, mostly in the ultraviolet and visible spectrum, far too dim to see with the naked eye but detectable with specialized equipment. This is not reflected light but light generated by biochemical processes within cells. The light comes from various sources. Some originates from metabolic reactions, particularly those involving oxygen. Others come from excited molecules returning to stable states. The overall pattern reflects the cell's activity level and state of function. Immune cells, particularly during active immune responses, show increased biophoton emission. The light intensifies when white blood cells encounter pathogens or when tissues are inflamed. Researchers have proposed that this light may serve as a communication mechanism. Cells could potentially detect photons from neighboring cells, receiving information faster than chemical signaling alone could provide. Light travels at, well, the speed of light. A photon can cross a cell or even travel between adjacent cells nearly instantaneously. Chemical messengers, by contrast, must diffuse through fluid, a much slower process. If cells can sense these photons, they could coordinate their activities with remarkable speed and precision. An immune response could propagate through tissue as a wave of light, cells alerting their neighbors to threats almost instantaneously. The idea remains somewhat speculative, but evidence continues to accumulate. Studies have shown correlations between biophoton patterns and cellular functions. Disrupting light emission can affect coordination between cells. Some researchers suggest that the coherence of biophoton emission, how organized and synchronized the light pulses are, reflects the health and organization of the tissue. Healthy, well-coordinated cells may emit more coherent light patterns. This connects to older ideas about the body as an energetic as well as material system. While the specific mechanisms and functions of biophotons are still being discovered, their existence is no longer in doubt. You are quite literally made of light as well as matter. Every cell glows faintly. Every tissue carries a subtle luminescence. The body is not just biochemical machinery, but a constellation of living light. This light is not metaphorical or mystical, but physical, measurable, real. Photons are being emitted from your cells right now, carrying information, perhaps coordinating activities, participating in the vast conversation that keeps you alive and healing. The realization adds another dimension to understanding what you are. Not just molecules and cells, not just electrical signals and chemical reactions, but also light, woven through everything, connecting and communicating in ways science is only beginning to understand. Healing, seen from this perspective, is not just cellular division and chemical signaling. It is also light, patterns of photons carrying information through tissue, coordinating the complex choreography of repair. When immune cells respond to infection, they glow brighter. When tissues heal, the pattern of light emission changes, reflecting the transformation from damaged to restored. The body's work of renewal is written in light as surely as it is written in molecules. Ancient spiritual traditions often spoke of the body's light, of auras and energy fields. While their terminology differed from modern science, perhaps they sensed something real. Perhaps humans have always, at some level, perceived the luminous nature of living tissue. You need not understand the mechanisms fully. The light continues its work whether you think about it or not. But rest arrives knowing that healing happens not just through chemistry and physics, but through light itself. As you rest here now, faint photons are being emitted from every cell in your body. This invisible radiance participates in keeping you alive, coordinating responses, facilitating communication between the trillions of cells that work together to be you. You are matter, yes, but you're also energy, electricity, chemistry, and light. All of these together, in constant conversation, create the living wholeness that is healing itself, moment by moment, in ways both understood and still mysterious. Your internal clock governs nearly every process, including how quickly you heal. Cells involved in tissue repair follow daily patterns, performing best when sleep, meals, and activity match natural cycles of light and dark. At night, growth hormone and melatonin rise, essential for renewal. In daylight, alertness supports immune surveillance. Aligning habits with these rhythms reminds the body when to repair and when to rest. The discovery that healing follows circadian patterns has changed how medicine thinks about timing. Studies have shown that wounds heal faster when they occur at certain times of day, and surgeries scheduled at optimal times show better outcomes. The mechanisms involve clock genes present in nearly every cell. These genes turn on and off in approximately 24-hour cycles, controlling thousands of other genes involved in metabolism, immune function, and tissue repair. Fibroblasts, the cells that produce collagen for wound healing, follow circadian rhythms. They are most active at certain times and less active at others. Their ability to migrate to wounds and produce collagen peaks during specific hours. Immune cells also operate on schedules. Some types patrol more actively during waking hours when exposure to pathogens is more likely. Others become more active during sleep when the body can focus energy on eliminating detected threats. Cell division, fundamental to healing, peaks at specific times. Growth hormone, which drives cell multiplication and tissue building, surges during deep sleep. This is why sleep disruption impairs healing so dramatically. Melatonin, the hormone of darkness, does more than regulate sleep. It also has antioxidant properties and modulates immune function. Its nightly rise supports the repair processes that occur during rest. When these rhythms are disrupted through shift work, irregular sleep, jet lag, or constant artificial light exposure, healing slows measurably. Wounds take longer to close. Recovery from illness is delayed. The immune system becomes less effective. The body seems to need predictable patterns to coordinate all its systems effectively. When it knows what time of day it is, it can prepare appropriate responses. When timing becomes chaotic, coordination suffers. Restoring regular rhythms often improves health more than might be expected from such a simple change. Going to bed and waking at consistent times, even on weekends, helps resynchronize cellular clocks throughout the body. Eating at regular times also helps. The digestive system follows circadian patterns, producing enzymes and adjusting metabolism based on expected meal times. Irregular eating confuses these patterns and can impair both digestion and metabolic health. Exposure to natural light during the day and darkness at night provides the strongest time cues. Morning light especially helps reset the master clock, while evening light exposure can delay it, making it harder to fall asleep at desired times. Even exercise shows circadian effects. Performance varies by time of day, and the body's response to exercise differs depending on when it occurs. Consistent timing helps the body anticipate and prepare for physical demands. The practical implication is that when matters almost as much as what when it comes to supporting healing. The same behaviors, eating, sleeping, moving, have different effects depending on when they occur relative to internal rhythms. This does not mean you must follow a rigid schedule every moment. The body has flexibility and can adapt to variations, but it does suggest that some degree of regularity supports health in ways that go deeper than convenience. The body evolved in a world of reliable patterns, sunrise and sunset, seasonal changes, the regular progression of day into night. Our biology still expects those patterns and works best when it receives them. Honoring your body's rhythms is a form of respect for its needs. It is listening to what millions of years of evolution have built into your cells and providing the conditions in which those ancient patterns can function optimally. As you rest now, your body is following its own deep rhythms, shifting into its nighttime mode of repair and renewal. You need not consciously control this. Simply allowing yourself to rest at appropriate times gives your body permission to enter states that support healing most fully. There's nothing you need to figure out, nothing to plan. Let it all soften and fade into the background of this peaceful moment. Before thought, before consciousness, there was repair. Every cell on Earth carries the instinct to restore what is broken. This impulse stretches back billions of years to the first forms of life that learned to persist. Healing is the foundation of survival, the translation of injury into wisdom. Every heartbeat echoes the same message: continue. In its truest form, healing is not fixing but remembering, life recognizing itself and choosing to begin again. The first cells to appear on Earth faced constant threats: radiation from the sun, chemical damage from their environment, random molecular errors. Without the ability to repair this damage, life would have ended almost as soon as it began. But those first cells developed mechanisms to mend their membranes, fix their genetic material, and restore their internal chemistry. The cells that could repair themselves survived. Those that could not disappeared. Every living thing today descends from those survivors. The capacity for healing is written into the deepest levels of biology, more fundamental than any specific feature of any specific organism. When your cells repair DNA, they use mechanisms that evolved billions of years ago. When your skin closes a wound, it follows patterns established in the earliest multicellular organisms. When your immune system fights infection, it employs strategies refined across hundreds of millions of years. Healing is not something that evolved recently, or that only complex organisms possess. Even bacteria repair damage. Even simple fungi regenerate. Even plants seal wounds and restore damaged tissue. The universality of healing reveals its fundamental importance. Life is characterized by many features, but perhaps none is more essential than the ability to maintain and restore itself against constant challenge. Without healing, no organism could survive long enough to reproduce. Without healing, evolution itself would be impossible, because there would be no continuity from one generation to the next. Healing is the thread that connects the first cell to every organism alive today. It is the reason there is a today, a continuous line of repair and restoration stretching across billions of years. In this sense, when your body heals, it is not doing something new or special. It is doing what life has always done, what life must do to remain life. The same molecular machinery that repairs your tissues has been repairing tissues in different forms since before animals existed. The same basic principles of sensing damage, mobilizing resources, and rebuilding structure have guided healing since the dawn of biology. You are the current expression of this ancient process. The healing happening in your body right now connects you to every living thing that has ever existed, all engaged in the same fundamental task of maintaining themselves against entropy. Every heartbeat is part of this continuity. Each beat is an act of persistence, a declaration that life continues, that repair proceeds, that existence goes on. The heart itself has been beating in various forms for hundreds of millions of years. The basic pattern, the rhythmic contraction that moves fluid through a system, arose early in animal evolution and has persisted because it works. Your heart beats with the same fundamental rhythm that hearts have followed across countless species and countless generations. It is an old rhythm, a proven rhythm, a rhythm that has sustained life through mass extinctions and radical environmental changes. That rhythm carries within it the memory of all the hearts that came before, all the organisms that persisted long enough to pass their patterns forward. You are here because healing worked in every single one of your ancestors, all the way back to the first cell. This perspective changes the meaning of healing. It is not just personal recovery from personal injury. It is participation in life's oldest and most essential activity, the activity that makes everything else possible. Healing is how life says yes to its own continuation, how it transforms damage into learning, threat into adaptation, challenge into strength. In its truest form, healing is memory. The body remembers what wholeness feels like and works to return to that state. Cells remember their proper relationships to each other and restore those connections when they are broken. The wound remembers the pattern of the unwounded tissue and rebuilds toward that pattern. The fractured bone remembers its original shape and reforms it. The damaged nerve remembers its destination and grows back toward it. Healing is life recognizing itself and choosing to persist, to continue, to remain. It is the most fundamental yes that biology can offer. As you rest here, that ancient yes is being spoken in every cell. The processes unfolding within you right now have been unfolding in living things since life began. You are part of something far larger and older than yourself, connected through healing to the vast continuity of existence. And still, the quiet repair continues. Allow these words to drift away now. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to remember. The healing continues whether you think about it or not, guided by wisdom far older than thought itself. Simply rest and trust that your body knows what to do. It has always known. Life has always known. And so the gentle work of renewal continues, as it has continued for billions of years, as it will continue through this night and into tomorrow. And now, as these quiet truths settle around you like soft light, you can simply be here, resting, breathing, allowing your body to do what it has always done so well. You have drifted through the gentle science of healing tonight, from cells that renew themselves continuously to hearts that beat with patient resilience, from skin that knows how to close itself to bones that reshape with quiet intelligence, from blood that carries healing instructions to breath that shifts chemistry toward calm. All of this continues within you now, even as your thoughts begin to fade. The work of repair does not need your attention or effort. It unfolds in its own time, following rhythms refined across countless generations, guided by wisdom that needs no instruction. You are safe here, supported, held by the same forces that have sustained life since its beginning. The body you rest in knows exactly what to do. It has been healing itself since before you were born, and it will continue through this night as you sleep. There is nothing left to figure out, nothing to plan or prepare, simply this moment of stillness, this gentle letting go, this quiet trust in processes larger and older than any single thought. Your breath continues, slow and steady. Your heart beats with its ancient rhythm, and deep within, cells work through the darkness, mending and restoring, building and renewing, carrying forward the endless conversation of healing that connects all living things. Tonight, as you rest beneath the turning of the earth, the universe continues its patient unfolding. Stars form in distant clouds, light travels across emptiness, and here, in this small warm corner of existence, you simply breathe and rest and allow yourself to be held. Thank you for journeying through these quiet truths tonight. I hope you feel the peace of knowing that your body is always working on your behalf, that healing is not something you must earn or achieve, but something that simply is, woven into the fabric of what it means to be alive. Let your eyes close now if they have not already. Let your thoughts drift like clouds across a darkening sky. Let the whole weight of the day release into the comfort of this moment. Sleep well, rest deeply, and good night.